Hey everyone, Bror Fredrik coming at you day 9 of the Las Vegas shutdown quarantine. A couple things I wanted to talk about tonight. I figured I'd do a night one for a change so you can see what Vegas during a shutdown at night looks like. As you can see, there's some lights out and there is a lot of lights still on. The high roller is still on, but for tonight's broadcast, I wanted to make it a combination of some news updates. There's a lot of updates today. A lot of positivity came out. So I wanted to cover that. And I wanted to have a little fireside chat with everyone. So I'm going to drive. I'm on Dean Martin right now. I think I'm going to drive downtown because I personally haven't seen downtown yet. And I'm not going to use the windshield mount. So I am kind of POV-ing it tonight. But anyway, a couple things I wanted to talk about was, I wanted to cover something that I said, I think 2 days ago, about behavior during this crisis. Shout out to everyone who unfriended me for being positive. See ya. Can't believe that's an actual thing. But what I wanted to discuss was some of the things that I see. I've been spending a little more time on Facebook to just keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on, see how my friends are doing, see how everyone is coping. And some of the things that I've been seeing haven't exactly thrilled me. Again, as I mentioned 2 days ago, there was a report out, and the numbers are still consistent today, saying that the death rate of the coronavirus cases in the United States is 1.1%. Now, that is extremely low compared to some of the other countries out there. But people are posting things like, oh, you wait and see, it's going to get higher. They're posting, well, the numbers aren't in yet. I'm sure that's going to skyrocket. And, excuse me, that's allergies, by the way. It is allergy season, so I'm dealing with that. But anyway, my thought is, when I see someone posting, the numbers are going to skyrocket, we haven't seen the worst, we're going to, all this other stuff. I'm not calling out you, but I got to call out the people who are posting this. You need to stop, because you're actually rooting for more people to die. I don't get that. The numbers are going to skyrocket. It's going to go way past 1.1%. Are you rooting that it does? I, on the other hand, are rooting that it goes lower. Now, from a epidemiology standpoint and from a pandemic standpoint, we need to understand that you can easily go to the CDC and look at flu cases for the 2018, our closest recorded numbers for the incidence of flu. Hospitalizations were at almost 1 million, a little over 900,000. And associated deaths was 61,000 people over a 4-month period. That's just in the United States. That was 500 human beings lost their lives to the common flu in the 2018 period. 500 a day. Now, that should be terrifying to most people. Are people rooting that gets higher? Are people rooting that gets lower? Do you realize that over 3,000 people worldwide die of malaria every day? 2,400 die of AIDS every single day? So we got to put things in perspective. I'm not minimizing what's taking place. I'm not minimizing the coronavirus per se, but we got to keep it in perspective. Yes, It's different. It's something we have no immunity to, which is something I'm going to cover in a minute, a report from Johns Hopkins. But my main point is, if you're one of these people out there saying, well, it's going to get worse, you're going to see those numbers skyrocket, just stop. You're rooting for people to die. I don't want to root for people to die. I don't want to watch anyone else root for people to die. So if you're one of those people, if that's what you post, then feel free to disassociate yourself with me, because I don't want to hear your dire predictions. And going back to dire predictions, there's been a lot of backpedaling in the news lately. The scientists who came out with their report saying 1.5 million people are going to die in this country, 2 million people, 1 million people are going to die, and the whole 70% of the entire country is going to be affected. They're all backpedaling their numbers now. They got their 15 minutes of fame. They know that that is not going to be the case. 1% of our population is not going to die. So I think rational, critical thinking has to start taking place again. So what I wanted to cover besides that, I'm driving and I have my show notes in my right hand. While I'm doing that, someone made mention of my blinker noise in my previous video. I thought that was amusing, but even during the apocalypse, LOL, I still use my blinkers. I wish everyone else would too. So on the news front, we have the stimulus package that has been passed. So it's $2 trillion, the largest package that's ever been passed in our country. And some people are happy with it, some people are not so happy with it. What it does at this point is $1,200. It'll probably still be a few weeks before anyone sees that $1,200. $2,400 for a married couple under $150K, $500 per child. There excuse me, there is indeed provisions in there for small businesses and self-employed individuals. And I know that was a question of a lot of people, myself included. How will we get taken care of? What are we entitled to? But there's specific provisions for people who work under 1099s, self-employed people, LLCs, and what the government's doing for us is they're including that. They're also including us in the stimulus package. They're also making small business loans available to just about anyone, and it's not that hard to qualify. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to start looking into that to see what's available for you as a self-employed person or a small business, an LLC. Another part of the stimulus package is also loans with loan forgiveness to any company that's still paying its employees. So if a small business decides it is going to continue to pay its employees during this crisis, the federal government will give them a loan. Excuse me. Oh, isn't this nice? They'll give them a loan to cover the payment of the employees if they continue it. That will last until September of this year. Should they renege, take the money, and stop making payments to their employees, that loan becomes due at that point. If they honor in word and in principle that they'll continue to pay their employees during this crisis, they do not have to pay back that loan, and that will last until September. So that's good news for everyone. It's good news for small businesses. And that will also, so people are saying, well, you know, the companies are getting the lion's share, but a lot of it is being passed down to the person through the companies. I have there was PD rolling up on me, but he seems to be in a hurry. I thought he was gonna check me because I'm almost the only person out here. Anyway, back to what I was talking about. There is a lot of pork. There is $250 billion allocated to these $1,200 and $500 payments, but there's also a lot of pork. There is $500 billion going to businesses, and people seem to have a problem with that. But again, as I said before, from a strictly logical, pragmatic view, you have to keep these businesses afloat. Companies such as Boeing is receiving help in order to keep themselves going, and Boeing employs millions of people. They're also 1% of our GDP. We cannot afford to let a company like Boeing go down the tubes, and they're doing that with the airline industry. They're doing that with the hospitality industry, which covers us here in Las Vegas. So yes, companies are getting stimulus. That way there's jobs to go back to when this is all said and done. We can't afford to let our businesses collapse and give the average person a little more money in the process. The other thing that's taken place is the unemployment benefit is being boosted to not only what you would have been entitled to, but I think it said another $600 in each of the unemployment checks as part of the stimulus. They also have an extended 13-week extended period for unemployment due to the coronavirus, so that's an awesome thing too. So there is a lot of help being rolled out, and like I said, there's also a lot of pork in there. Some of it you might agree with, some of it you might not agree with, but there's a bailout package. It's like when you got allowance when you were 10 years old. How many people actually saved it, and how many people, once they got their hands on the money, went and bought bubble gum? So human nature is such. So there was $2 trillion available that was not available before, and everyone wants to get a little piece of it. They want to give it to their constituents. They want to, they want to make the most of the situation. So yeah, there's pork. There is $300 million to museums. There's just absolute millions and millions of dollars. There's a bailout for Amtrak, and not the way you think, not to keep them afloat, to extend their rail services. There's a pork package in there to provide more cleaning services that aren't even necessary at this point for properties that aren't even necessary. There's they want to bail out the United States Post Office, and they're getting a huge chunk of money. Do we need our post office? Yes, we need the post office. Did that have to be rolled in with a package to help the American people? Not so much, in my opinion. So let's see, what else did I want to cover? Oh, today it was announced that we're going to have enough respirators. That seems to be the thing that everyone seems to be concerned about, is respirators. Now, companies have kicked in, and we're producing respirators at an unprecedented rate. And they predict within the next couple of weeks, we'll be able to send those overseas and to our friends and neighbors in other countries that don't have the manufacturing capability that we do. So that's just an absolute tremendous piece of news, that we're going to not only be able to, I think I'm going to turn around right here, not only be able to take care of our own needs as far as respirators, but we'll also be able to help the world with our manufacturing capabilities in basically everything, but specifically respirators. So I thought that was a bit of positive news today. And getting back to what John Hopkins had to say, John Hopkins came out with a report 2 days ago that they said in their preliminary testing that they're finding that human beings are indeed developing an immunity to the coronavirus. And they say it's short term. Obviously it's short term because it hasn't affected us for that long, but they say human beings are already developing immunities to the coronavirus. And that is amazing news. but frankly, not unexpected news, because the human body is an amazing, amazing machine. You know, there hasn't been anything that the human body hasn't overcome since our existence. So the fact that we're developing immunities is predictable. Nobody's talked about it. I haven't really heard that in the news. And how people are developing immunities, they believe that a lot of people have already had the virus and recovered from the virus, and the antibodies are already developing inside the human beings that have had the virus. So that is good news. So there's a lot of people out there that have already had it, already recovered, and already developing antibodies. Whether those antibodies spread, I'm not a scientist, I don't know, so we'll have to see what John Hopkins has to say about that. But they're also testing people who have recovered for the antibodies, and that is probably going to be the most likely source of our vaccine, people who are recovering. And right now the recovery rate is 99%. So that is quite promising, both in terms of the fear factor of it, that you indeed are developing your own body's natural defenses against this coronavirus. So that pleases me, and that's pleasing everyone on the front lines to find a vaccine for this thing. And let's see, so we just went downtown. It doesn't look that much different, other than the fact that there's no people out there. But I think I'm having a little harder time staying on the road doing this at night than doing this during the day. But so forgive me for wandering with the camera, but I'm gonna do my best here. So that was John Hopkins. There's a lot of stuff going on about ibuprofen and Advil. Oh, if you take ibuprofen and Advil, you're gonna die. That has not been proven. No, there was a couple of posts by some doctors or nurses, and I'm not saying this to discredit them whatsoever, but there's a lot of posts, a few posts about, yes, it has been shown to make it worse or not be effective, but that has not been proven quite yet. So I mean, maybe you want to be cautious because, you know, a few people said it had, so stop taking your ibuprofen, but that has not been scientifically proven. I could not find one lick of evidence saying that, yes, indeed, this is a fact. So that brings me to another point. Facebook memes should not be your source of news information. So if you're getting your news from Facebook memes that people are passing around, you're doing yourself a disservice. I'm sort of an analytical type of person. Where I'm getting this information from is I'm going to CDC website, I'm going to various news sources and compiling things that I'm reading. It's like going down that dark alley. Okay, let's see where this takes us. And I'm going to John Hopkins' website. So I'm going to financial websites. I've been going to Forbes. I'm not getting my news from, oh shit. Just turned down a one-way street. Nobody rat me out. Okay, back on track. I'm not getting my news from Facebook memes. And especially if that Facebook meme agrees with you, then all of a sudden that's news. That's got to stop. If you want to know what's going on, you want to keep abreast of everything that's happening, do your research. Okay, Las Vegas Boulevard. Here we go. We're cruising down the strip now. Do your research. Get your news from reputable news sources. I would say apolitical news sources would be the absolute best. But you do what you have to do to stay informed. Now, wanted to discuss something that I heard from Carson City, from our governor Sisolak. He was sort of hinting at today, yesterday, that hinting. He didn't say it outright, but he's hinting that he's going to go beyond the 30 days. Now, I find that, as someone who lives in Las Vegas, a little bit disturbing that it's so open-ended. So the 30 days that he mandated, this lockdown, shutdown, quarantine, it's fluid. So he said 30 days, but it's not 30 days. And, you know, there's been rumors about it being extended until the 1st, extended indefinitely. And he has shown no qualms about going against what the federal government is instituting. He seems to be wanting to run Nevada like it's its own little independent country, and that's his prerogative. He is the governor. But I tend to disagree with the open-endedness of it. I think he should be looking at a plan to put Las Vegas back in business, instead of, you know, taking it day by day and it's in flux and we'll have to see type of mentality. If you'd ask a conspiracy theorist, which I am not, because behind every conspiracy there is some truth, I'm thinking, I hope I'm wrong, but I'm thinking that there might be some talk of a state tax, which obviously a lot of you know we don't have a state tax here. But I think if they get the state to distance itself from the casino industry and say, see, we can't rely on them to compensate for our lack of state tax, we're going to have to institute a state tax. I hope that's not the case, but if this goes on too much longer, you better believe that's going to be on the table, putting a state tax in Nevada. I wouldn't say mark my words, but make note of them. So we'll see what happens with that. So I don't like the open-endedness that he's sort of leaning towards, this we'll wait and see approach. Another thing in the news today that I noticed, I don't know if a lot of you did or not, but there's going to be a meeting on the federal level on Monday or Tuesday to discuss an actual shutdown, how long it's going to last, when the federal government is going to recommend resuming trade and all this, you know, basically lifting the shutdown or lightening the shutdown. That meeting is going to take place on Monday or Tuesday of next week. Part of what's taking place is, when you signed your contract with your cell phone carrier, I don't know if anyone's ever read it. I haven't read it, but I've read enough similar contracts to know what's in there, including the contract to get on Google and every other thing we sign without paying attention. The cell phone companies are basically using their tracking data, and they're providing it to the federal government to give an indication of social distancing and how people are social distancing. They have full reports over what cities, what states, what towns, what areas, what segments of the country are social distancing, which ones are not, which ones are complying, which ones are not. And that's being done with our own cell phones. And they're basically turning over that information. Now, at this point, it is anonymous information, and it's basically just, we have 1,000 users, you know, in this longitude and latitude that are practicing social distancing. We have, you know, X amount of users. Right now, we're X amount of users. They're not giving our names to anybody or anything like that. But indeed, cell phone data is being used to track who's social distancing, what states are, what towns are, what cities are social distancing, and which ones are not. And based on that information, that's going to be brought to the meeting on Monday or Tuesday to decide how long the shutdown's going to be, whether stricter rules or recommendations have to be in place for certain parts of the country, and whether certain parts of the country can be lifted. based on the data that they're receiving, which they're also going to correlate with CDC data. So if they see a correlation between people's ability or inability to social distance with the statistics of the coronavirus, you know, the geniuses are going to get together and figure out a good recommendation for how to continue. It might be done on a state to state, it might be done on a city level, it might be done on a regional level, it might be done on a national level. But I'm also pleased to announce, being a resident of the state of Nevada, that we are ranked #1 in our ability to social distance. That doesn't necessarily surprise me, because we're kind of socially distant anyway. We're a wonderful community, but we do tend to keep to ourselves, keep to our little clans, keep to our crews, however you want to call it. We've been doing that. That's sort of the nature of this town. Sans the 40 million people here that come here every year, we're a small community, so it's not very surprising, and I'm watching what's taking place. Granted, there is a lot of traffic right now for Las Vegas Boulevard on a Friday night during a quarantine, but overall, I have seen people very willing to do their part with social distancing. I've also noticed that some of the places that are open, I went shopping 2 days ago, I'm going to go shopping again tomorrow. They've been putting their chalk on the floor to show people what 6 feet is and all that. So that's good. We are, I wouldn't say behaving, but our behavior has been very good throughout this period. We're not requiring a lot of intervention at this point, which is awesome. Now in California, I've seen stores that are only letting in 2 or 3 people at a time. There's a lot of that going on, but right now Nevada and Las Vegas in specific is behaving very decently, very orderly, and we're sort of self-policing ourselves, which is fantastic. So the more we self-police ourselves, the less we have to be told what to do. You don't want to be told what to do. You want to be able to go and buy your food tomorrow without a police presence, without chains, without long lines waiting to get in to get your block of cheese. We don't want that type of stuff. So right now we are leading the country in self-containment. We're leading the country in following the recommendations that are coming down from leadership and from our health officials. So we have a lot to be proud of on that front. We are #1 when it comes to flattening this curve, and that's being witnessed by our cases. Unfortunately, our cases of death due to the coronavirus has hit 10, but our overall cases are very low, and we're hoping to keep it that way. So everyone in Las Vegas, everyone in Nevada, keep up the good work. It doesn't mean hide under your bed, but practice the recommendations. I'm out. Yes, I'm out. I'm driving in my car. There's no one else in it. My car is clean, wiped it down. My home is clean, wiped it down. I'll be going in and out. If I encounter anyone, I'm maintaining my 6 to 10 feet away from them, so I'm good. My mask is coming in on Monday, and I'm looking forward to that. And I've been wearing what I've had to in the meantime, but it's going along very, very, very well. So I'm pleased to say that. Keep up the good work. Let's see, what else did I want to cover today? Oh, back to the fireside chat. I saw a couple posts today with people saying, oh, I'm moving to Canada. Haven't we all heard that before? The old, I'm moving to Canada. No one ever says they want to move to Mexico. They want to move to Canada. Okay, I want to move to Canada. What is the mindset behind moving to Canada now? Oh, well, Canada's given their citizens more money than the United States is. Okay, so move to Canada. So, okay, I'm going to call out the moving to Canada crowd. If you want to move to Canada, move to Canada. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out. If you want to move to Canada, go move to Canada. What are you going to do in Canada? Become an ice road trucker? Plant maple syrup seeds and hope you grow a crop? What are you going to do in Canada? You're going to forsake the country, the greatest country in the world? You're that unpatriotic? You just don't feel a love for your country? You're going to go rush off to Canada because they're getting $800 more a month? That's the most preposterous thing I ever heard. This is still the greatest country on the planet, on the face of the earth, the United States of America. You should be proud to be here. You should be supporting. If you want to move to Canada, I say go move to Canada. But good luck with that, if that's your motivation, you know, because they're getting more money. We're getting just as much money and support as Canada. It's just not in the way that you see it being dealt with. Like I said, you're going to get there's unemployment. There's packages that people will still receive their regular paychecks. There's packages on top of packages on top of packages. Plus, once this is over, we're going to go back to having the strongest economy in the history of our country. That's not going to stop. If the panic and the irrationality continues, it might be prolonged, but there is no stopping the American spirit. It is indomitable. We are going to rise from this. We're going to be a manufacturing center of the whole world. We just proved it. We went from making cars to making respirators in less than 3 weeks. We can produce anything we want at any time. We can outperform any country in the world in terms of our manufacturing capabilities, in terms of our spirit, in terms of what it means to be free. So if $800 more a month and not having a job to go back to afterwards is more important to you, then go for it. Move to Canada. Move anywhere you want. But this is the United States of America. We are the greatest people. We have the greatest freedoms. We have the greatest opportunity, and we will continue. This will end, I promise. I will make a promise to you. This is going to end. This is not the end of the world. We'll be back at it. We'll be out there selling houses, taking photographs, doing everything that you used to do. And you know what? If you take the time to prepare now while you have the downtime, you'll have an even stronger comeback. And that's what we want in this country. Stop with the doom and gloom. It's the end of the world as we know it. No, it's not. It's a reset. So it's time for you to reset yourself, your own thinking, and think about who and what you want to be. Remember when you were in school, when you were off for the summer in 10th grade? I don't know about you, but I sat there and decided over the summer who I wanted to be as a sophomore. And then sophomore summer, I decided who I wanted to be as a junior. And I did that every single summer as I grew up, because it was an opportunity. You were away from all those people, all the things you did the year before everyone forgot about, all the stuff you got into every year. To me, a summer was an opportunity to reinvent myself. And I continue to reinvent myself. Every time I've moved, every time I adjusted my business, every time I adjusted my priorities, whether relationship or businesses wise, it was an opportunity for me to readjust myself, to reinvent myself. If I was keeping track, I would probably say I'm Bror Fredrik version 11.6 by now. And this is your opportunity to do the same. This is just a reset. So decide now who you want to be when this is all said and done, because we've distanced ourselves from the people we normally see. We've distanced ourselves from business. We've distanced ourselves in a lot of ways, not just socially. So you can come back and be whoever you want to be when this is done. Do you want to be a better person? Do you want to be a stronger person? Who do you want to be? You get to be whoever you want to be in another few weeks. So take this time and decide who and what you want to be. What version of you do you want to come out of the other side of all this? And that's what you should be shooting for. And I'm going to be version 11.7 when this is all said and done. I got plans in the works. I got things that I'm going to introduce business-wise. I have goals, and I'm working towards them during this downtime. I'm not just driving around doing this. Yes, this is keeping me busy, and I'm hoping I'm being entertaining. If I called out a few people, hurt a few feelings tonight, too bad. You'll get over it. You know, we're all adults here. If you want to call me out, go ahead. That's been happening since I started doing this, and it doesn't bother me in the least bit. That's just part of life, part of being a grown-up. Anyhow, so go decide tonight, tomorrow, what version do you want to be of yourself when this is said and done. I've made my decision. I hope you're making yours. Love all you guys. I appreciate you watching. Appreciate you spending time with me. And on that note, Bror Fredrik out.
Make sure it sound right, boys.